A lot of teams feeling that right now on this playoff stretch, getting ready for the postseason. The Houston Astros, I want to start there, Adrian, because a lot of teams thought these guys were going to go away, hoping maybe they were going to go away, fans, rivals. But they're still doing it, man. As we record this, a 3.5 game lead in the NL West, and really it's been the pitching staff. Number 1 in pitcher WAR, number 2 in pitcher WAR, 17.4. Philly only one ahead of them at 21.8. So been on the mound. What do you see from the Astro staff here?
We spoke about the Brewers being holistically built, and the Astros are pretty holistically built as well. They're just well positioned. They're one of the more underrated compositions to me in terms of net wins and lead your division. And I think the Houston Astros have figured out ways to win baseball games for a good stretch of time now, including with a lot of players throughout here, some more experienced players scattered throughout here. There's something to the momentum of winning, in my opinion. Like the Houston Astros have been on the momentum side. They've had momentum when it comes to winning at a high level in Major League Baseball, in polarizing ways sometimes, but just overall, I think they've been just incredibly effective at winning baseball games, over like 162, then actually closing out a postseason and turning that into championships. But here they are again, leading their division this far into a season, in a division with a good Seattle team and a good Texas team. Texas has been playing good baseball now. I think they're a game and a half out of the wild card. But it's kind of been them as the top dogs in the AL West for a little while now. And I think that has now carried over into a different front office regime, so to speak, right? Like they moved on from James Click and decidedly went in a kind of a scouting heavy, after having a very analytically driven, upbringing to that point, and then have flipped over into a kind of really scouting heavy system in terms of like their general manager comes from the Braves kind of system of scouting players that's really athlete targeted and scouting targeted. So they've survived a few waves of turnover and are still in the lead in the NL West here this late into the season. So it just felt, as I was looking at the landscape of teams to spotlight, and there were a few good candidates, some that we've already covered. So to just give a range to the show that's different, the Astros stood out for this week because they're not built like the other teams necessarily, but they are built in a way that works for them.
Yeah, one theme, and obviously I got the script, so I've been able to see some of the players we're going to talk about, Miami Marlins players, New York Mets players, but there are a couple themes that emerge as some of the players we're looking at, and I'm seeing a lot of cold weather guys who really blossom late across all the guys we're going to look at over the course of the show. And then a lot of north-south guys, guys with rise on their fastball, maybe a nice little curveball. Hunter Brown hits both of these.
Yeah.
Big, physical guy from Michigan, Wayne State, Detroit. Grew up watching Justin Verlander. One of the best pitchers in baseball this year. Second best fastball, runs above average in baseball. Brian Wu being number 1. Another guy that was mid-round pick. Brown drafted in the 5th round. Kind of worked his way up here, but you look at the numbers, it's outstanding. Big physical guy, been on an upward trajectory. How did Hunter Brown go from 5th round pick, Wayne State, to a player that is on top of the sport?
He's the ultimate 2025 modern era, kind of how you want to draw it up kind of pitcher, right? Then it happens to be found in kind of an undervalued, under-scouted at Wayne State. Like it comes in a bit of a different package, but that doesn't mean that it's not equally effective in today's game. I think he's a model of him and Brian Wu. And it's interesting that both those two guys are at the top of that leaderboard. But fastball runs above average, basically like total effectiveness. Your fastball is 2 runs above the major league average. You're just the fastball alone. I'll go into the curveball because by far he's best curveball in the game too. So true north-south. But in terms of a vertically moving 4-seam fastball, it feels like and Brian Wu you can say this as well. It's not just velocity driven. There's some velocity behind it, but it's that, if you would put the movement grade on the fastball, you'd put it closer to the top of the scale, 70s, 65 plus, at least pure fastball movement from Hunter Brown is what I'm deducing based on just what I'm looking at here. And then he couples that with what I think is far and away like the best curveball in terms of actual effectiveness. Same thing I talked about, like runs above average, like with Hunter Brown's curveball. In the day and age of a lot of sliders, cutters, sweepers, you hear those terms as part of the profile more than true 12-6 curveball. But if you have it, if you have the raw spin behind it, that you can throw a power curveball, it can be effective at the top of the league. You know, what does he net out at, like a top 4 pitcher in the game, right? In terms of, the power ranking of number 4 overall in baseball with that exact profile. He's just a true modern day ace for the reasons that scouting departments and analytic groups kind of chase it. And it's a good delivery. There's no, I don't know. It all works.
It's interesting to talk about that, the curveball north-south. As we record this, we just saw Yamamoto go basically an out away from having a no-hitter with his curveball and some of the north-south things that he can do. He's got a whole repertoire. But you mentioned the combination of analytics and traditional scouting with a guy like Hunter Brown. Let's go to the traditional scouting side, not so much the TrackMan stuff. Assume the TrackMan wasn't invented yet.
Sure.
Cold weather guy like this, big body, good athlete, good frame, all that kind of stuff. You talk about the delivery. Just from your physical scout, your traditional scout of this player, what do you like about him? And in general, and I'm going back to this. Well, before we even get to the background of him, just what you see on the film with the delivery and with the body type. What do you like?
I would grade a lot of that out as like fair to average, fair to better, right? Just in terms of, it's not a super hyper dynamic, hyper flexible, hyper explosive delivery, just kind of pretty traditional. And it's actually kind of, there's a little bit of violence toward the end there, at least on this pitch, with a bit of a head whack in terms of just effort to it. And he's able to get away with it with really good command. But a lot of guys, that last effort right at the end there where the head kind of dunks and dips, for him, it functions and it works good. For some guys, it allows command to kind of be just a really violent move toward the end. So this is not a knock on Hunter Brown at all. I think it's a fair to better delivery, and he's repeated it extraordinarily well. The other thing that stands out is that fastball and that curveball come out from pretty much that same pocket with some effort. So there's to me, I think he's got some deception-based stuff because it's kind of slow, quick. And then it's extreme 4-seam ride, so it gets on you quick. And then go to the breaking ball, just so that I'm not. No, sorry.
A lot of red.
Yeah, a lot of red. Surprising amount of sinker usage too. So that's really interesting as well. Him getting effectiveness on that fastball to side, not just 4-seam. So it's pretty much 40% 4-seam, 20% sinker. So pretty much anything that he's missing a lot of bats, and he's putting everything else on the ground, and he's not walking anybody. It's kind of all the bases you really need to cover your part as a pitcher. But then he's got the swing and miss stuff, which puts him into that different category. But it's interesting that he's using pretty good percentage and evenly distributed between sinker and 4-seam. I would have thought it was much more 4-seam heavy, but I guess that makes sense too. So going to the curveball though, the curveball, best curveball in baseball here, runs wise. It's the same slot for me. Same delivery, same slot. One's 96, 97. The other one is just a bottoming out breaking ball that he could probably land for strikes in early counts too. I'm wondering how much more he goes to it for bat misser instead of like strike establisher. A big curveball like that can also it can throw you off early in counts. You know, it's not breaking balls aren't pitches you want as a hitter. You don't want to make, like, you want to be a really good fastball hitter. Some hitters are better breaking ball hitters than fastball hitters, but it's like in the minority of hitters that want to live feasting off breaking pitches. So just a big shaped breaking ball like that it's just harder to hit. It bottoms out. Some sliders stay on the bat path. And so I think you'll see that's why slider's just a shorter, more horizontal pitch, which has some benefit. And especially if you could bottom that out. Because if not, you kind of stay on the same bat path as a left-handed swing, or a right-handed swing even, right? You throw a right slider to a right-handed hitter, it goes out, but like if you follow the trace of the bat, that's on bat path too. So sliders, I see why they're more common, but here in this context, I see why his is more, it's kind of get under the bat, get over the bat with the fastball, get under the bat with the curveball, trying to like distill it down as simple as I can here. So it all tracks as to why he has elite value in the game. But the delivery, I can see how he falls to the 5th round, for example. It's not, at least just looking at it without seeing the total data, amateur data in front of me, I'll bet, because the Astros selected him in 2019, that he was buoyed by a lot of really strong analytic characteristics, including with the 4-seamer and the breaking ball. So for an amateur scouting department, 5th round, 166 overall pick in that, 2019 draft, to have an ace level starter out of that range of the draft, you feel good about that.
Now, you were international for a lot of your career. Not a lot of cold weather scouting involved in that process, but yeah, I mentioned at the top, we're going to talk to Thomas White about in a second here. Jonathan from Canada, Thomas White from the Northeast. So a guy like this who's from Detroit, Michigan, knowing what you know about the amateur process, you've been around some old school scouts that, have been around for a while and dealt with these kids for a long, long time. I know Stan Meek's someone that you value his opinion quite a bit.
Yeah.
Like, how do you approach these cold weather guys in terms of upside, maybe things that aren't there presently that you say, well, when we get him down here and he's full-time down here, we might get X, Y, Z.
Yeah. I think what makes me think of that is I worked for a man by the name of Gary Denbo that was from Indiana, right? Middle of Indiana, rural Indiana, and was as baseball freak as you could think of him. This baseball, like, freak is the wrong word, but it's more like he energized around baseball so fervently that it didn't matter if that's not a traditional place where a ton of baseball is being played. Enough is in those pockets. And Derek Jeter, for example, is from up there in Michigan, Kalamazoo, Michigan as well. So
Don Mattingly, who you worked with as a
there
manager.
You go. So there's not only precedent, but it makes sense. Like, great players can come from anywhere. To me, we're seeing a big Hawaiian push right now, a big Pacific Northwest push, a big Northeastern push between Jersey, Boston, Thomas White that we're going to talk about. Like, Michigan is its own pocket.
Canada,
really good baseball being played. Like, the Big Ten baseball is still like relevant. Like, good teams come out of there, good players get drafted out of there. And stands to reason that even below that at the University of Michigan, Ohio State, that all those programs also have, good fervent baseball following. So the cold weather stuff, it's not going to deter the right kind of athlete from getting to baseball if he liked baseball anyway, or if he came up in a baseball family. And you're going to get there from everywhere. I was just talking on Un Podcast de las Mayores, which is the other show we do here on 786 Sports. And we were talking about Cuba and how from all corners you see impact players. And I think the United States is that as well with baseball, where like you can really find a path to major league success from anywhere. I think you got guys from Wyoming, you got guys from all over the place getting to elite level performances, payments, contracts at the major league level. And I think that's awesome. And this is another example of that. But Michigan is not like it's a cold weather pocket, but it actually has like pretty rich baseball history overall.
And you drafted, not you personally, but you're part of an organization that drafted Max Meyer, number 3 out of Minnesota. I mean, does it even come into the discussion in the room like, hey, this guy's not from one of these Southeastern or Texas or California baseball factories? We think there's meat on the bone here. We think he can develop in XYZ, or is it not something that really comes up other than just the general background?
It's a good question, because it does come up in terms of, okay, how often does this guy get to develop the thing that you need him to do 10,000 hours of, right? But I don't think that is indicative of an incapability to do those things at a high level athletically. I think does that player find a way to get the reps, whether it be summer ball, whether it be, like pack it in somewhere, because the reps have to come somewhere in order for you to be developed enough. Some organizations can really shrink that amount of time, and that's where good player development systems come in. But I haven't seen it enough, when you're looking at him and you're evaluating him, like, can I trust this sample size? And they're usually smaller sample sizes, especially in those high school seasons up in the Northeast. Like, you can get, so it depends. It depends on, it's harder for them to get as many reps because of the seasonal nature of the way that they have to go about it as amateurs. But travel ball has gotten to a point where, like, you play on the right travel ball teams and you're willing to travel on weekends regularly, you're going to get seen as much as anybody on the circuit. Like Thomas White, for example, or Max Meyer. Like, there wasn't really much of a limit to access to seeing him. It's more like, how many reps, how many innings can you like rely on this to project as a starter? So sample size really, but you give to me, you just give a little more patience with the players from colder weather areas and see, if that's just a reps issue that they haven't seen it. But I don't think that there are instinctual or skills limitations from other places in the country. So to me, a player can be great from Miami, a player can be great from Connecticut, from all these other places that we talked about. And some of those are very cold weather spots. So I've just seen enough precedents where maybe late bloomers across the board, if I can make a general broad statement, later bloomers.
Yeah.
But I think that's reps driven more than anything.